PayPal, and they're obviously. Let's start with the U.S., which is obviously their home market. I get the feeling, but I may be totally wrong, that in terms of the merchants, they may actually be near saturation. The reason why I'm saying that is they are obviously with the sort of small and medium-sized businesses. They have had years and years now of growth, and at some point, I would think there's just no more merchants that will need PayPal, and so that's one of my worries, that we are close to saturation there. That's maybe worry number one. Worry number two, outside of these core markets that you also mentioned, it is hellishly difficult to get traction because you have to build up a two-sided network. And even PayPal is a very, very strong company. I don't know how they could do this. But maybe you have a few views on ideas on that.
Yeah. So indeed, over time, acquiring new merchants becomes more difficult, and because there's so much competition, you get into that dangerous situation where basically everything is decided on price, and that's not helpful for anyone. So I think in certain markets, levels of saturation are important to consider, and that would be the more developed markets. For new, so I think that's a fair assumption. I don't think it would dry up altogether. There's different product categories they could look into. I don't know how strong they are in gambling or digital assets, etc. So there is some opportunity for growth, but it's not what it was before. In terms of new markets, I think indeed it takes it takes an effort to penetrate new markets. But don't forget they're providing an international consumer network. So if you were, I don't know, a significant merchant in, let's say, Croatia, okay, a very highly developed market, if you suddenly had access to 220 million consumers with very little effort, apart from the fact you'd need to translate your listings or your websites or whatever, that would be attractive, I think. What may be a bit more difficult, and where you might have local competition, is where you're trying to sort of set up from scratch merchant and consumer networks on a local basis for domestic business. So I still think it will be relevant for cross-border, but there'll be a lot of competition for domestic business.
Yeah. Okay. And well, what does that mean all in all? I mean, our investment time horizon is 5 years, right? Yeah. And if you could put any number on organic growth or trends growth at least, that would be very helpful, because it's extremely difficult for me to see where that goes.
Yeah. So what I would rely on first of all is what are the e-commerce growth projections over time. Yeah. How much is likely to move towards e-commerce, and there's lots of studies that give you an idea of that. Then on top of that, I think consumers are becoming more and more, if you look at the PayPal numbers, they talk about active users and then the number of transactions that they're doing, both of which continue to increase. And I would have thought that will continue to be the case,
All right.
over time. But it won't be the same growth rates as you've had in the past. There's no doubt about it. But why do
you think usage is going to continue growing? I mean, I have seen the numbers, quite impressive. Why do you think that is continuing?
Well, just ease of use. I think